going to record the call, so we are being recorded. So I am going to turn it over to Megan Addison, our executive director, to talk to you a little bit about our vision.
Welcome, everybody. Good morning from my home. Hope everyone is doing well. So just like LaRon said, we're here today to go over the middle school provider funding that's available that starts next school year. But for those of you who aren't familiar with Collective for Youth, I did see a couple of new names on the list. It's our vision that all children and youth have expanded learning opportunities that ignite the imagination, grow the mind, and provide the foundation for success in school and life. And we're doing this by facilitating resources, providing quality training for out-of-school program providers. And I'm going to apologize ahead of time because I have 3 children with me today that are doing e-learning. So if you see somebody running behind me, that's who it is. As we get together, we often talk about we are your best advocates, we are your best cheerleaders. As long as we know what your needs are, it's our goal to promote those in the community with different foundations and also with the school district. Should I just do a head nod, LaRon, when you can click?
Okay, yeah.
That work?
Oh yeah, it should have clicked.
Yes.
Okay, there we go.
So I'm actually going to turn it over to LaRon, and he's just going to go over the different middle school sites that we're working with in Omaha Public Schools.
All right, good morning, everyone. I know in the box it may say Tracy Walker, but this is Lavon Walker. Currently, we have 8 middle school sites, and what I want to do, I'm going to tell you the sites and the lead agencies. So for Mars Magnet, we have Completely Kids. McMillan Magnet is YMCA. Morton Magnet, Boys and Girls Club of the Midlands. Norris Middle School, Completely Kids. King Science, Boys and Girls Clubs of the Midlands. Lewis and Clark Middle School, Civic Nebraska. Monroe Middle School, Urban League of Nebraska. And Nathan Hale Middle School is Dream. Then I'm going to talk to you about how do the program providers fit into the schools? So I want to talk to you about the program days and hours. Typically, on a normal day, programs take place every day that school is in session. The session will last an average of 8 weeks. From site to site, the hours are going to vary. And generally, they'll run from 3 p.m. until 6 p.m. Then daily schedules will vary, but include homework time, academic time, meal time, and other enrichment activities as well. Again, as a provider, what do I need to be as a provider? What do I need to be as a provider? You need your insurance. You have to definitely complete your background checks. Register with E-Verify. Have your lesson plans. Experience with students during out-of-school hours. Then willingness to participate in continuous improvement process. And I would turn it over to LaRon to continue to talk about the quality improvement process.
Many of you have already heard the way that we use quality. So we use this pyramid of program quality. If you haven't seen the pyramid, you will get very familiar with it, but we make sure that all of our programs or all of our sites provide a safe environment. And then we move up to supportive environment. Now, many of you are probably familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And so this is where we take this from. So a safe environment, supportive environment, peer interaction, and then the top of the pyramid is youth engagement. Many of you are familiar with our assess, plan, and improve. Twice a year, your program is assessed, usually in the fall and then the spring. And then after that assessment process happens, it happens by someone coming into the site and doing an observation. There's a tool that we use called the YPQA, part of the YPQA process. And so you do the assessment and then you get some data back. After you get that data back, we help you make a plan, or you put together a plan on how you're going to improve. And so after that plan, we spend the rest of the time, a couple months, improving, and that's through training or through technical assistance or through anything that can provide an avenue for you, you or your staff to become better. So assess, plan, and improve. You'll become more familiar with that. This year, one of the things that we have done is we've added a couple things, training and technical assistance, some expectations for the 2020-2021 school year. And so you can see all of the dates that we have. Really the reason why we did this is, one, just to provide a more cohesive network. Last year we tried to do some basic things and our planning with data, we did it together. But as you look at this, the training, once you become an approved site, the training starts in July. So July 22nd, 23rd, and 24th are really workshops to help you get grounded on what is expected and what you can expect when you get into the school buildings. It ends on the 24th with a kickoff. We usually have a kickoff separately. This year we're doing an elementary kickoff and we're doing a middle school kickoff. And during that time, we'll go over basics. Basics is basically a way to look at what are the key components that we need for programs. After that, there's some quality coaching for managers. Many of you have asked and inquired about how can we understand this process of quality better. And so we're going to provide some quality coaching, a tool just to help you really look at, one, how to coach your staff, but two, understand a little bit better. Then at the top of the screen there, August 26th through September 29th is when we'll do external assessments this year. We've also provided some ongoing training. So that first, the session that took place in July, we're also going to repeat that on September 18th. Social emotional learning, structure and clear limits, and reframing conflict. The data workshop that many of you participated in last year is going to be on October 15th. And then we're going to ask you this year to submit to us a plan. Once you look at your data, once you sit down with your staff and find out, okay, here's what we need, here's what we don't need, we're going to help you put together a plan for continuous improvement. And so we'll talk a little bit more about that later. And then we're going to have a check-in. December 2nd, we'll check in. Most likely that will be a Zoom call just to check in, to provide support so you don't feel like you're out there on an island, but to help you a little bit. Then after the first year, many of you participated in our total network of looking at goals and looking at a plan for what we're going to do. And so we're going to take time on January 4th to do a network overview of our data. Here's what the data looks like. We'll have the elementary, we'll have the middle school, we'll have providers, and then we'll look at it as a whole to make that happen. Once again, on February 15th through March 31st, we'll do external assessments in the spring. And that's really a time to celebrate the work that you put in the fall to see where we've improved. February 25th, we'll have a professional development day. And then our last meeting, our last formal meeting that you'll be required to come to is April 5th, where we'll do another check-in on Zoom, just to make sure that you feel supported. If you have any questions, anything else going on. So we'll be going over that more in detail a little bit later, but I'm going to turn it over right now to Carrie Mohudeen. She's going to talk to you a little bit about training. Carrie, let me.
Good morning, everybody. On our website, if you have requests for trainings for your agency, if you have any special needs or general requests for support, you can go to the, now it's on our Collective for Youth website, and right there's the form, sorry. You just fill it out and then someone will kind of farm it out to the appropriate person to contact you, most likely LaRon. And if there's any questions about that, feel free to let me know. But they do go to me. So info@ is usually my mailbox.
Okay. All right. I think I'm going to do this. There we go. Okay. So we're going to move, we're on question number or bullet number 6. Qualifications to apply for funding. I'm going to turn it back over to Megan. There you go.
Thanks, Laron. For those of you who've been participating in this funding for the past, remember that prior to last year, all this funding was directly requested from the Sherwood Foundation. This is our second year administering this fund. So just wanted to make everyone aware that it is funding that Collective for Youth has requested from the Sherwood Foundation, then to be re-granted to you as a provider as you proceed through this process. So there are some requirements that you need to fulfill in order to apply. And the first one is that you do need to be a 501c3. That is a requirement. You also need to follow NAM's principles and guidelines. So I know that can be pretty overwhelming and cumbersome for small organizations. So our expectations is that you're working towards them and can identify where you are in the process. You must have an anti-discrimination policy in place. And that means it needs to be approved by your board, not just that you have it written in your policy handbook. As you can see below, we have our example from Collective for Youth. E-Verify is a requirement, basically making sure that any of your employees have the legal status to work in the United States, and also volunteers. And the last is to follow expectations for providing programs. So, you know, we've been taking a step back the last couple months and really thinking about what's Collective for Youth's process, what's our expectations with our program partners, and really trying to have a much clearer structure so people understand what's the expectations and how do you enter into the system. So that's part of what LaRon and Levon are going to talk about next.
Okay. Uh-oh.
You can click, LaRon. Unless there's any questions. Okay, so I saw a question pop up from Kim. Let's see, independent contractors are excluded. Exactly. So you, for E-Verify, it must be an employee that you run through the system. And the other thing, it's a new employee. So if you've had employees previous to, let's say you're a new program provider and you get funded, and you've had employees on staff for a while and you've never done E-Verify, the expectation is you would not do them now. You would just do any new employees that you hire. It can be complicated, so if you have questions, we can also talk about it offline. But that's one requirement we have in place from Omaha Public Schools, which I should have clarified. There's insurance requirements, background requirements, E-Verify requirements, and those are all part of our partnership with Omaha Public Schools and what their needs are for anybody who provides a program within their school building. Okay.
Okay. Updated expectations. One of the things, why are we creating expectations this year for both sites and program providers? One of the things we want to have, just like we used in our quality process, we want to have common language between the provider coming in and the sites. And just listening to feedback over the years, we know that one, the most important person in the school building is the kids. We want to provide a real great service for the kids. So creating these expectations is just going to, one, hold each other accountable so that we know what everyone is doing. We know that the processes are put in place to make the environment safe for everyone. One of the things that we did just about a month ago is we convened both site directors and program providers to help us determine the expectations for next year. So the expectations that you're getting ready to see in the next slide that Levon is going to explain really is a combination of what everyone has said. And so before you come on as a provider in our network, both parties will agree on the expectations. We'll sit down and we'll have a conversation, and here's what both parties are going to do. And so what you're going to see here is just a list of about 10 or 12 expectations that we're expecting for providers for next year. So I'll turn it over to Levon.
right. Thanks, Ron. So with the provider expectations, we looked at the expectation from the meeting about 3 weeks ago from providers and the site directors. So then we came up currently with about 12 items for everyone to look at to have a common language and common expectations when they come to the program. And I'll start with the first one. Program providers should check into the site 15 to 20 minutes prior to programming and state the duration of the sessions. Providers should check out at the end of the session. The second one, program providers should take attendance and review and use the resources provided. Example, the binders, your walkie-talkies, your attendant rosters, and et cetera. Then make sure that you return all the resources. Third, program providers should communicate ahead with the site directors for changes needed in the environment or regarding schedule changes. Program providers will find a suitable substitute when the primary teacher or facilitator is unavailable. Program providers will have an understanding of the principles of a high quality out of school time program. Program providers will follow established behaviors, expectations set by the site directors for the students. The program providers will provide lesson plans to the site director for each session. The program providers should come prepared with enough materials for the student and the enrichment activity. Program providers are engaged in interacting with the students during the activity within their session time. Program providers will ask site staff to engage with the students in activity if provided a site staff. Program providers will leave the learning environment clean and orderly. And program providers should work with the site director regarding the photo release policy. So it's like 12 items that I just went over with you. So this is definitely a working document, but again, it's to help put and establish some common language, some common expectations for the program. So then at the end, if you have any questions for us about the expectations, I can explain those and you can just put it in the chat box, please. And I will turn it over to Nicole.
Hi, everybody. Okay, I am going to talk a little bit about the actual application today. One thing that I want to highlight and make clear is that this application is not available on our website at all. It's an invitation only because you've attended this meeting or are interested in providing program at the middle school sites. So we will be sending it out via email. You'll get a special link in your email, and that will be the only way that you will be able to access this application. If you currently already have an account with applying last year, then we would like to see you use account. And if you need help resetting the password or changing the email contact, something like that, just let us know. I would be able to do that on our back end for you. A couple of things for the application this year is that, let me flip to my notes here. We have an eligibility quiz again this year. So I'm going to actually have LaRon pull up the application if he would right now.
Sure.
While he's doing that, I was going to let you know that we to shorten the application this year. We took out a couple of questions. Actually, we took out more than a couple questions. I think we took out 4 or 5 questions just to help shorten it a little bit and get more pointed with the questions that we are asking. I also want to make clear that this is new this year. We have separated out, no longer will the lead agencies be applying through this link. Lead agencies will get a separate application at a later date to apply for their middle school funding to run their sites. This will only be a provider application. It will not be lead agency and provider, so that should help clear up some of the confusion that you might have. Okay, so here we are at the eligibility quiz, and it just simply is the same questions as what we've had before, so I'm going to have LaRon, go ahead and answer yes to the first question, because all of you should be a 501c3. You should have a policy in place or be working on one. You have communicated with Collective for Youth in regards to providing out of school time by being on this call or even letting us know that you're interested. You can mark yes to this, that you conduct background checks. And then this last question that LaRon is answering is new. So for anybody who has not previously applied for funding with us before, we want to have a conversation with you. So if you would email Megan or myself and let us know that you are definitely going to apply for funding this year, and what you're looking at applying for, that would be really great. And then you can answer yes to this question and go ahead to the RFP. Okay, so this is basically the same. This is the first page, is the organizational information. We need your legal name of your organization, your federal tax ID number. We need your address. We need your phone numbers. If you have a website, we always like to keep those on hand. We want to know your mission statement, what year your organization was founded. And then these are all required. So we need your list of your board members that govern your organization. We need your non-discrimination policy, and then we need a copy of your liability insurance. And one thing I want to note here is that this next year we'll be having insurance checks throughout the year. So when you do receive your funding and you sign your grant request, I will be setting up some times that you will go into the system and upload a copy of your liability insurance so that we can see that you carry it throughout the year. So again, through the process, we do need to see that you have the right insurance. Again, we have 2 contacts. I know there's been some confusion in the past. I've tried to keep everybody on the communication that comes out from me, but we do need your primary contact, your director, your manager, whoever you want to put there, and then a program site contact. And this usually is the one that the site directors will use, this program site contact, to start scheduling their programs and communicate with. So just kind of think about that when you're filling in information there. And if you have a 3rd and a 4th contact, just email me so I can put it on our contact list before it goes out in the late summer, early fall to those sites so that they have that contact information. Okay, so we're moving to the next page. This is the proposal information section. Right off the bat, we just want to know what you want to call your program. What do you refer to it as? What's the total request amount for your program? And LaRon, if you would hit that button up there, the info button, that little blue. So this is one thing that we probably get a lot of emails about, is the estimated cost per child. I have put a formula in here. It is hard to read because the info box only gives me so much space. I will be taking that formula and putting it into a PDF and sending it out with the information. But this is the formula we follow when we review your application to find out what your cost per student is. So you might fill in a number there, but it's not actually the formula we use. So if you would use this formula, it'd be very helpful for us to get a better sense of what your cost per student truly is based on what you're requesting. The next question is you would pick either the whole school year or you would pick the school year and the summer. The school year, it's a drop-down button. It says, which of the following time frames does the program application cover? And again, you would either pick just the school year or school year and summer. We have a commitment to our sites and to you guys that we want to see 5 full weeks of programming. And if you want to do the summer, that's welcome too. So you could pick 6 weeks, which would be the school year and the summer. But we aren't promoting at all just a one-time drop-in program for one session. You would either commit to doing the whole school year or the school year in the summer. Again, we want you to pick what grade levels your program is appropriate for. All our middle schools have different age demographics. Some are 6th through 8th, some are 5th through 8th, some are only 7th and 8th. So we want to know which grade level your program is appropriate for. Here on this next question, which of the following primarily describes your program? LaRon, if you could click on that. We want you to indicate what you feel like your category of program fits in. We know that it may not be perfect, but see if you could pick one of those. So the next one is just a brief program description. How many middle schools do you want to conduct your program in? So we're asking you to think about your capacity here. How can you safely provide programs to X amount of middle schools, and what does that look like for your organization? We do have, as Levon listed earlier, 8 middle schools. If you're a first time providing program, we wouldn't award 8 middle schools right off the bat because there's a little bit of a learning curve going into the middle school to provide programs. We want you to be able to provide substitute instructors, so take that into consideration when you're thinking about how many middle schools you want to be in. We want you to have a quality program, and we don't want you to be stretched too thin or not have an enjoyable experience providing at the middle schools. There below, you can select which middle schools you want to conduct your program. If you don't have a preference, you can select every single middle school there. If you certainly have a preference, please select it, but know that we only have a certain amount of money per school and to accommodate program providers. So we may not be able to put every program provider at the selected school that they requested. So just let us know where you're willing to go. The next question is pretty important. It's one that I probably most commonly email about. Are you willing to move your program if we can't get you at your first selected or your top selected schools? Yes or no? What's the total number of students you expect to serve? What's the average number of unduplicated? Again, we want unduplicated students. Sometimes we get thousands in this box, but we know that's not necessarily an unduplicated number. So think through what you think your unduplicated student served number is. And then if you've applied for certain schools, go ahead and put in what you think your total number of unduplicated students would be for those schools. Indicate the best fit for your program. Is it a 1-day program? Is it a 2-day program? Is it a 3-day program? How many total hours a week will you be providing program? Again, this doesn't include preparation, setup, or cleanup. It's just actual program provision time. Describe what your daily schedule looks like and what your program activities are. And then again, this is required. We want to see at least 8 weeks of a lesson plan. We want to make sure that you're being intentional about what you're out providing. And then we know that this bucket here is tied to our outcomes framework, and we will send that out when we send out all the informational materials. The outcome framework was something that the community of out of school time created about 6 years ago. And on one side, it has what the program goals are, and on the other side, it has what we would like to see as the student outcomes. So we're asking you to pick, as best of your knowledge and the best of your ability, which one you think your program fits under. And then the next question is, where do you think the outcomes that you're working on with students would fall? And that's a drop-down menu there. And then how do you think your program goals align with your activities? Describe the outcomes you want to see. What learning goals do you have for the students? Do you use a curriculum? Is it evidence-based? If so, where, how was it developed? How will you support the site's family nights? This is a new question or a revised question from previous application. We know that many of you like to be out at the family nights, and we know that this is prime time for you to engage with families. And so we just want to know how you're going to support the site's family nights. The next question, how do you plan on creating a welcoming environment for middle school students? How do you use what you've learned from the YPQA already to create that environment? And then here, if your organization has already provided program under this funding process, what will you do to modify your program to attract you to return? What does that attraction look like? Okay, so then again, here is the staffing information. This is probably the #1 thing that we get emails out about throughout the year, is not being able to provide substitutes for a program provider during a session. We would love to know what your plan is and how you're going to staff that throughout the year. What source are you using to conduct background checks? How often do you conduct background checks on all your program instructors and in substitutes? Again, as I mentioned with the insurance, we're going to have some checks lined up throughout the next year where you'll have to log into the system and upload your insurance. Same thing with the background checks. We're going to want to know that you've done background checks and how often you're doing them. Describe how your agency provides their professional development for staff members related to the youth development field. What are you doing to support your staff? So that is all of the programming stuff. So I'm going to have, yep. And now we get into the fun stuff, the budget information. We have always had you put in your total grant request, and then we ask for a 20% match. This can either be cash or in kind, and it should be reflected in the budget. So we're going to ask you to fill that out in amounts there. And then the last box is your total grant request, and your matching funds equals your total program cost. So you can see that formula there as well. And then there's a box here to say what other funding sources do you bring to the program. And then the next one is the uploading of your budget and your budget narrative. And I'm going to invite Megan to pop in here too. The thing that we need most from you is a clearly delineated budget. What are you spending money on? If you just have program staff and amount, you can bet that I will email you and say, how many program staff? How many hours? What are you paying those program staff? We want to know more details regarding your budget. If you just have supplies and you have $10,000 in that line item, I don't know what supplies is. Is it iPads? Is it markers, crayons, paper? Is it workbooks? So we need details when it comes to budget. And those can be, you can have your budget line item, but in your budget narrative, sometimes we get 2 and 3 pages of budget narrative, and that cuts down on the amount of emails and questions that we have, and if people can delineate what they're spending their money on. Megan, anything to add here?
I don't think so. I think you were very clear, but it tends to be the biggest question that we have is about the budget. So when you do budget, you should also include your match dollars so that your total budget is your match plus your request so that we can see it clearly on what's being expended on the program.
Perfect. Lauren, you can flip to the next page. Okay, so here's the outcome information. We've asked for this information in the past. We're asking you what your proposed outcomes are of your program, how you're going to accomplish them, how you plan to measure them. And I know this is something that we've had lots of discussion on. We want you to talk about the YPQA and the evaluation process. And if you have participated in the past and you want to talk about your experience and what you've done to revise your program, then we want to hear it. We also know that there are other tools out there. There are pre and post tests that you're using. There's things, evidence of kids just telling you how they're growing, stuff like that. Whatever you want, we want to hear it in terms of your outcomes and how you're accomplishing them. Because of our partnership with OPS, we have to know if you're using a survey or a pre and post test. This isn't that we would tell you that you needed to change them necessarily or anything. We just want to have them on file and make sure that we know that you're using them. So if you would upload those here so that we can see them, that would be very helpful. And then we're just asking you if the surveys and the pre and post tests that you're using are evidence-based or if you've made them yourselves. So we know that as well. And then the last question in this entire application, because we have seen and fostered a lot of great partnerships and we're really proud of those partnerships and we want to highlight them and help you continue those partnerships. We want to hear which organizations you're partnering with and who you're planning on collaborating with during this next school year and the cool, awesome projects that you guys are already working on, because several of you have already contacted me with great things that you're proposing for the 2021 year. And just a note on this is some of you do joint projects together in different sessions. And if you are and you're asking for budget support, we do want to see that reflected in both of your budgets so that it's not just one organization that's asking for financial support and not the other. So then the last page is just submission of the application. And you can see here there's a statement, and it says, by submitting this online application, you are confirming that you agree to participate in the continuous improvement process. And you heard from LaRon, there are some changes this year. We have some expectations for your staff members and your managers to attend the trainings and the technical assistance calls. We have kind of given you a glimpse into where we're moving for those provider expectations. Lavon read through those 12 things. And then that you have the authority to submit this application and that you have the support of your organization's executive director or board chair. So that's the last statement in the application. And I know we can't see each other, but are there questions?
Yes, Nicole, there are a couple questions. One of them is, what is the recommendation for frequency of background checks?
I'll answer that. So as of right now, with our agreement with Omaha Public Schools, there's no requirement to do a background check after at hire. Now, some organizations have their own policies. So at minimum, a background check must be conducted before they're hired. And then you should always have a policy in your handbook that states if something was to happen, if somebody was to, I don't know, get arrested for something, that they should be self-reporting that to their organization. I know other organizations do it yearly, and so it really, that part is up to you. We haven't been mandated any more frequency besides when they are originally hired. Now, if you are a new program provider that gets funded for the first time this year, the expectation would be that everybody gets a background check because you are a new partner to us, even though you may have had those people on staff for multiple years. Does that help?
I think, yes. The other question is,
Hey, LaRon,
okay.
we can't see anything. We can only see your screen at this moment.
Okay. I'm trying to get back to it and it's not working. Okay. Okay, let's try this. Love technology.
I think you minimized it and it's down there on your bar down there.
Yeah, it's coming.
Okay.
Now, can you see anything?
We can see the PowerPoint.
Okay, that's what we need to see.
Okay.
Okay, another question is the liability minimum limit still 1 million?
Sorry, so insurance requirements have not changed. But I'm going to be very clear with everyone. We're currently in a negotiation with Omaha Public Schools for our contract moving forward next school year. So there could be changes, but I don't anticipate insurance requirements changing.
Okay. And then the last question was, what is the final process for determine the expectations for providers as well as site directors? We'll have an additional meeting and gather folks together again to talk about, to finalize that before the beginning of the school year, 2020, 2021.
Sorry, LaRon, can you repeat the question?
The question was, what is going to be the final process to determine the expectations for providers as well as site directors? The sites. And so that was the question that was asked.
Gotcha.
Okay. Nicole, you want to talk about additional information on timelines?
Yep. Okay, so by the end of this week, you're going to get an email with a whole host of information. So I need you to either use the link to register for this meeting or put your email in the chat box, or send me an email because I won't be able to send it to you without a working email for this application. So we had a review meeting today. Again, I'm going to email out the link and all of the supplemental information by the end of this week. New this year, and because we can't meet in person and things are just wonky, we are hosting a Zoom technical assistance call. That will be on April 8th, 2020 at 10 a.m. We will have you pre-select when you join the call what you would be interested in talking about, whether it be budget information, program providing information, lesson planning, whatever you're hung up on to apply. So then we can network and figure the solutions out together. So that will be on April 8th. Applications are due April 27th. We're kind of pushing the timeline a little bit because we would like to get you notification as soon as we can this year. Again, we know things are a little unsettled, so we want to make sure that we're following the process and getting you information as soon as we can. Applications will be reviewed in May and June. During this time, you can expect that there is a committee that's meeting, and we're reading the applications. We usually get between 35 and 37 applications, so it's a lot of applications to review. And so we're meeting weekly to review the applications, talk about the questions that we may have, and I will start communicating with you to say, hey, we have this question about this budget line item, or we have this question about this statement that you made in your daily activities. And then, are you interested in going to a different site? Those types of things would be what we would communicate to you in both May and June. We're hopeful. Again, everything's really unsettled this year. I can't guarantee anything, but we're really hopeful that we would get you notices by July of 2020. And then right now, OPS school starts up August 18th. That is the timeline that we're working on here. Any questions about the timeline?
Nicole, there were a couple of additional questions.
Okay.
Just from our last part. One of them is there a preferred cost per student that we should target? Is there a preferred cost per student that we should target?
I'll answer that. So there is not necessarily a preferred cost. For those of you that have been with us since the beginning, there was a preferred cost. It was $750 maybe per student per time at the most. What we are recommending that you do budget for what it's cost, but understand that each site only has so many dollars that go to it. So for example, I'm just gonna make up numbers. So let's say Monroe gets allotted $100,000. And if your program is 2 days a week and it's high expense, let's say it costs $15,000, $18,000 for the year. So that $18,000 comes out of the $100,000. So as you can imagine, we need a variety of cost ranges in order for this to work, because as program providers, you're part of the staff at those middle school sites. And so we need to make sure that we can fund the adequate number of programs per school. So that's why you have a match that's included in your request, because ultimately we can't afford to pay really the full cost all the time for every program. Does that make sense? And, you know, we already have received the money, so we have a set dollar amount. What was the bonus of applying through Sherwood? You know, they may have had a set dollar amount, or they might have changed it based on what they saw coming through the application. With us administering it, we already know what our dollar amount is, and we already have a budgeted amount per school. And so we have to stay within those ranges because there isn't any additional funding for this project. So
another question, as a new provider, how many sites can we apply for?
That's
yeah.
a good question.
It
Go
is
ahead,
a good
Nicole.
question. I was going to say I would have a conversation with Megan or myself about it. Like I gave the example, we typically don't give a new provider 8 sites right off the bat. As I mentioned, there's a huge learning curve that goes into this. And so I don't have a net number necessarily. I would rather have conversations with you regarding your capacity, regarding what your structure of your program looks like. Is there a need for the program out at the sites? That always makes a big difference if the sites or the site directors are requesting a certain type of programming. So it really just varies from case to case on that. Anything you want to add, Megan?
Yeah, I would also say it also depends on what previous experience we've had with you.
Mm-hmm.
For example, we had a new program provider that applied last year, and they were probably funded for 4 sites for the first time, which is quite unusual. But prior to that, they were doing multiple sites through a different funding stream through the School Neighborhood Advisory Council. So we knew they had the capacity to do it because they had proven that they were able to be they were able to provide programs to multiple sites before.
Another question is, may the budgets, as they're putting together their budgets, may they include pay for the July training and other trainings? So I'm assuming that means pay for the staff.
Correct. They should include training time within their budget. They should pay their staff to be trained.
Okay. I think that's it for now. Oh, when selecting site to work with, should the provider reach out to the site first?
We always recommend it. It's not a must. It's not you're dead in the water if you don't. But if the provider reaches out to the site director and explains what the program is and how they can fit a need at the site director then can advocate for that program provider when it comes time to looking at which program providers at which site. They might tell us, hey, we're moving towards increasing literacy. So this provider who's concentrating on working on literacy at our site would be very helpful this next year. It's always great to start communication very early on in this entire process. Hey, Lauren, I see a couple of questions that maybe came to the whole group and not just privately to you. I see one about substitutes. If we are unable to provide a substitute, is canceling with a certain amount of time, 6 hours before or 24 hours before. I just lost my text box, but is that acceptable? And my answer is no. And here's the reason why. We have to have our providers providing substitutes. And here's why. Is this model was built that the staff at the middle schools are very lean. They don't often have extra staff. So then in order to keep them in ratio, we need the program providers to be there and providing to the students so that we stay in program ratio and that we have enough staff to cover the amount of students that may be there. And I know this varies from site to site in terms of what their staffing looks like and if they provide a staff to be with you in the session and such. But we want you to provide a substitute because of the staffing model that we've created. The other reason is the students are counting on you being there. They're counting on that program. It's part of that quality process of you developing relationships and you being there week after week. I think many of the students that we're serving experience a lot of disappointments in the adults in their lives. And so by having a substitute or by having your program plan as to how you're going to serve this group of students, they know that they can count on you and they're still going to get that program every week. I hope that makes sense. Anything to add from any of the Collective for You staff? This I know has been a question that we're asked all the time, but really we need our program providers to have a strong substitute policy.
I would agree. Other questions?
I lost my chat box. There were a couple of other ones. I think Mary Beth had asked something about, is the July 22nd and 24th training for providers or sites or both? It will be a tracked training. We're looking for program providers to attend that training. We're looking for site staff. we're looking for management and directors to attend that training. So everybody will be at those trainings or invited to attend, and there'll be different breakout sessions as we work on developing that training that will be appropriate for your staff. One of the conversations Laron and I had, and please jump in after this, Laron, is that we know that sometimes your staff won't have been hired or started, but we're going to offer those same sessions that we're offering in September for those staff members that miss the July 22nd through 24th training to come to that September 18th. But we're trying to tell you as early as we can so that you can make arrangements for staff members to be there.
Yeah, that one thing that we want to do this year is really provide technical assistance and training that meets at the level of your staff. So you may have a new staff person that needs basic information, or you may have someone who has been with you for a while who needs some more advanced training. And so we're talking with the site directors and some of the assistant site directors now, just to find ways to better provide conducive training to everyone. So you'll hear more about that shortly. This would be a good time for us. We've talked a lot about the site directors. We have some site directors. I'm going to get out of this. I think that may have been the last slide. I'm going to stop share for just a second and go to our gallery. We get to see each other. If there are site directors that are on the call, if you could just unmute yourself. And one of the things in this time, since we're all working from home or working from different places, if you could just introduce yourself, what site that you work at, and then if you could in the text in the chat box, your contact information, and then we will send that out later because folks may want to get in contact with you during this time. And we just want to make sure that everyone has that opportunity and it's all in one place. So you may have a remote number, or you may have a remote cell phone number or whatever. So if you could, I know I've seen some of you on the call. I'm just going to give you a chance to introduce yourself. Hi, my name is, this is where I'm from. You can contact me this way. If I see you and you don't want to, I'll just go ahead and unmute you and call on you. Dewan, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Dewan Reddick, site director at McMillan Middle School with the YMCA. Cell phone number is probably the best way to reach me, and look forward to working with some of you in the future.
Okay. Someone else. Tara?
Hi, can you guys hear me? Hi, I'm Tara. I'm with Dream at Nathan Hill. I will put my email down at the bottom, but email or cell phone is the best way to reach me.
Okay.
Hello, my name is Darshell Amos. I'm site director at Monroe Middle School. The best way to reach me is probably by phone or email.
Hi, this is Tiffany Gamble with Emerging Ladies Academy. The best way to reach me is by phone or email, and I'll put that on my at the bottom as well.
Other site directors or staff?
Hi, my name is Tracy White, Lewis and Clark, Civic, Nebraska, and you can reach me via email or my cell phone number, and I'll list it in the bottom.
Okay. I think that may have.
Hey, Laron.
Yes. Sam.
I can go for Completely Kids because Alyssa aren't on the call. I'm Samantha Weiss. I'm with Completely Kids. Alyssa Erickson is one of my staff, and then Veronica Schweitzer was at Norris. Alyssa's back from maternity leave on a part-time basis. So you can email her, and I'll put her email in the chat box. And then Veronica came back from maternity leave, but then is now a stay-at-home mom, so she's no longer at Norris. But we did just hire someone for there. Her name's Nancy Estrada. She has not started yet because it's crazy. So I'll be the contact for now for Norris, and I'll put my email in there too.
Wonderful. Did we miss anybody? Okay, wonderful. We have a couple of more slides. And then right there. There we go. Okay. Megan.
Thanks, Laron. Just in closing, if you don't already know, you can go to our website for more information. Always follow us on Facebook and Twitter. We do put out training opportunities on both of those social media avenues as well. So follow us if you don't already. You can click to the next page.
Yep.
Here is both my email and Nicole's email. So if you have questions about the grant application, you can email both of us and call us. Both our voicemails go to email, so we can return your phone call if you do leave us a message, but you have to leave us a message for that to happen. And then I think there's one more slide, Lauren. There we go. So I did want to take a moment of your time since we have most of our currently funded program providers on this webinar, just to talk briefly about some updates about the coronavirus. So as most of you probably already know, Governor Ricketts has shut down Omaha Public Schools until at least April 30th. That's the minimum shutdown date. It could be 2 weeks beyond, so we could be looking at close to May 15th-ish if they were to open back up. So that being said, we're very fortunate to be in Omaha that all of our foundation partners that fund your programs are okay with everyone continuing to pay their staff as if they were working at those programs. So hopefully that is already happening. If you have any concerns about that or questions, please email me and we can talk offline. The other piece to be thinking about is program a little differently. You know, we're not quite sure what's going to happen in the summer. I would hope that there will be an opportunity to get back into schools and do some summer school programming to finish out this fiscal year, but I guess there's really no guarantees. So with this break in program time, I would really encourage you to think about, like, is there a way to connect to your site director at those sites and see how they're already connecting with kids? Maybe there's an opportunity to send a Facebook Live or, you know, get them on Facebook Live or something like that. I mean, there's so much technology out there, Zoom, you know, but you have to connect with the agency in order for that to happen. We know our agencies right now are just trying to figure out best ways to connect and support families with immediate needs, not necessarily always about program enrichment. This is also a great time to participate in trainings. So I know Laron's going to push out some Zoom calls, so you could push those out to your staff to really get a better understanding of the youth program quality assessment and other topics as we make them available through this downtime. I would also encourage you to think about your lesson plans. You know, if you've been doing the same stuff for quite a few years, this might be a good opportunity to have your staff refresh, review, think about, you know, how they might incorporate the quality, the youth program quality pieces that you get that have been trained on within your lesson plans or with how you do your programming. If there are, I mean, we also, I'm saying also a lot, we know that a lot of agencies have had to either postpone their major fundraisers or cancel their major fundraisers. If there's things that your organization is struggling with in this base due to the coronavirus epidemic, please email us so that we know. We do often get asked by foundations, what are the needs of the youth development organizations? But if we don't know what they are, it's hard for us to advocate for you. I miss anything?
Nope. That's it. Let me open this back up. Stop share. Hello, everybody. Okay, so if you have questions, we went through that pretty quickly, but if you have questions, now is a great time to either put them in the chat box or ask anything, you have all of our information. The last slide there, Megan's information and Nicole's information. As Nicole or as Megan said, I will be sending out some opportunities to get some training through Zoom. And if you have something that you would like to share, we're giving folks about 30 minutes, just not to take a lot of time. But if you have some expertise in the area that you would like to share, send me that information and a good time. But our Zoom calls are pretty interactive. We can break up into small groups and we can do different things just to keep people's minds fresh and give an opportunity for the staff to be trained. So let me see. Is there going to be one of the questions that we have is there going to be a final report this year?
Good question. I know you just reported in December. And so what did we have? A couple of months in there. I will commit to looking at the final report. We will have to have your budget information for sure. Maybe we can condense the final report a little bit, but you did have a couple of months in there from December until end of February, start of March here. So a couple of months to report. But we'll take a look at it and see what we can do in terms of the questions. But we will need to know where you are with your budget and what you've spent your money on here. We know it's going to be very heavy in staffing, paying those staff since the virus has all put us in a spiral. But we'll take a look and we'll make sure that we get that out. We can, I think it's due May 1st. So that would be right around the time that we would go back. So we could even probably get it out a little bit earlier this year so you can start working on it.
Okay. If you have additional questions, I know some of these questions I'm going to answer here privately. If you have additional questions, or if you just have feedback for us, this is the first time that we've done something like this as an organization. Working out some kinks, we've done it live a couple times with our site directors. But if this is something that you like, just give us a comment. Give us a comment in the chat box or send us an email. You have our email information. But hopefully this time was worth your hour and 5-10 minutes out of your schedule. Hopefully we've got your question answered. And if we didn't, just please go ahead and give us a shout out and we will answer your questions. If you have questions about the application, just let us know. Anything else, team? No? We're good?
Nope.
Okay. I'm going to stay
pretty well.
I'm going to stay on the call for just a little bit. So if you have questions, we can have some conversations. But have a great day. Stay safe and be expecting an email from me with an invitation to some trainings that we're doing this week, next week, and from here and beyond. Okay?
Yeah.
All right. I like the thumbs up. Like the thumbs up. Like the thumbs up. Thank you all.
Yeah. Thank you.
Realized there were so many people on the call. Thanks, Kim. Uh-oh. Hold on.
They forget to log off?
I don't know. Okay, we got a question. I'm listening. Miss Williams, Mr. Williams. Oh, is it Tyrone? This must be Tyrone. I hear you. Go ahead. You're not coming through, brother.
Ron, can you hear me?
I can.
This is Mary Beth.
Hi, Mary Beth.
Hey, I'm just curious what happens with all of the YPQA that was going to be done this month. Will we see feedback from our spring sessions?
Right now we put it on hold because all of the observations were not done. And so I will be sending something out. Some of them, I think all of yours were done. But we want to make it fair to everyone who, we don't want to send out a big group of information without having everybody. So I know I did yours. And so if you want to look at it, we can look at it together and then go from there.
Is Megan still around?
Megan is still on the call.
So Megan, can I ask a couple of questions about how we're supposed to handle this with employees, as far as you've kind of given us some leeway on how to change, but like I have a staff member, I'm not sure she even wants to continue remotely doing Give. So how do I handle her? Because she was previously on the payroll.
So, I mean, if she doesn't, like, she just doesn't want to work.
Pretty much. I mean, I don't think she wants to, she has a full-time job.
Mm-hmm.
So I think she's probably pretty busy with that.
Yeah.
And I don't think she has the time to give, because we're meeting for meetings. It conflicts with her work schedule.
Yeah.
So do I just take her off the payroll at this point?
Yeah. I mean, is she essentially quitting?
No.
Or is she taking you could call it, she's taking a furlough?
That's a good question. I'll have to check with her on that.
What I would do is, I mean, if they don't need the money, you don't have to pay them.
Okay.
Does that make sense? But then you probably need to put something in place, like have her sign something that says she's taking a voluntary furlough where she's not going to get paid for any time she would have worked from, until things get back to normal.
Okay.
I would also encourage you, for those that you are paying, maybe they sign something that's committing that they're going to return.
Oh, that's a good idea. There's so many questions I have regarding them. The other thing is we're trying to do some things to continue the program remotely. And we hope to have it up hopefully by the end of the week. But I don't really know a good way to document their time, other than their word. Is there anything out there you'd recommend?
I think at this time we have to give people just, we're giving them the benefit of the doubt. You probably may not get as many hours as you would have if you're really having program, but you should still pay them for those hours.
Okay.
You're budgeted for it, you got the money for it.
Okay. Let's see. Email, let's see. Training. Okay. I think those were my big questions.
Okay. We're all trying to figure it out, Mary. Mary Beth.
I know, it's kind of crazy.
There's no roadmap. I know, I'll give you the example. Some school districts are still paying their paras, even though they may not have much for them to do.
Yeah.
Because of of what their job is. But yet they're committed, if they were budgeted for 20 hours a week, they're getting paid those 20 hours a week. We have a organization partner, they're calling it a pandemic policy leave, where essentially they're getting paid for what they would have regularly worked, and they're not expecting them to work. And, like today, I got 3 girls on Zoom, an 8-year-old that's not sure what she should be doing, so it's just a time of transition, and knowing that our productivity might not be at the highest, but if people are using the time to learn, or even, I'm sure LaRon could recommend a lot of good books that they could read, and report back to you. You might consider putting a process in place where they give a regular report back, whether it's every week or every 2 weeks, saying these were the things I was working on, you know, that it's outside of what you're trying to do together. I mean, those are just things that, you know, gives you documentation.
Mary Beth, there is a site that the 21st Century Learning Center put together called U for Youth,
Mm-hmm.
and it has modules. It's very similar to the stuff that we do with
Nice.
youth work methods, but training on a little bit of everything. But after you finish a module, you get a certificate.
Yeah.
So you could recommend to them to do, it could be structure. And I think the structure class is 4 hours. And so after that, there's some questions that they have to answer, kind of like a test. And then it pushes out a certificate for them. So you'll know that they completed it. So they're semi-interactive, but it's a way to get some foundational principles into the staff to make it work. And I agree with what Megan said, just with the book. It could be you want to develop your team. I could recommend a couple good books that all of you could read and then answer some questions to either help the culture of your organization or their leadership skills or a number of different things.
All right, I got one more question, and then I'm not going to take any more of your time. So we are trying to create a website, and we're not sure how to do this. And maybe LaRon, you're my go-to guy on this, but we're trying to. We haven't even named it yet, but we're thinking it's like my coronavirus service challenge or whatever. And so basically, it would be a website which would be accessible to everyone, but we were originally targeting Give Kids, but we don't really know how to target them directly. So we thought, well, let's just publish this website. But what we want to do is we want to give them certain Omaha challenges for service work, but we need them to document it. We were going to use the Sherwood money for prizes and that sort of thing. Kind of opens it up community-wide. I hope that's okay. But we want to make sure OPS is involved. How can we get that out there? We were going to use our social media avenues, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, that sort of thing. But is this, I guess one of my big questions is what are the legalities that we need to think about as we're doing this? You know, if we want kids to upload a trash cleanup in their community park, are they allowed to do that? Are there age ramifications to this sort of thing?
I guess I would have to hear a little bit more and understand. You're trying to create a website to have kids from your program load something up in their own free will. Is that what you're asking?
Right. So basically, they take on this service challenge and they send us in documentation of them doing, I don't know, we have many, many needs out there, like creating cards for senior citizen homes, trash cleanups. We saw a new one come through yesterday. I forget what it is, but anyway, so there's these challenges that we want to kind of collectively post for youth to participate in and kind of work in their own communities, but we need them to document themselves because, well, because we're awarding prizes.
I would, the first folks I would get the agreement from, if they're doing it from home, is the parents.
Okay.
And if there's a release, a sign of something from the parents, and then go from there. The rest of you? Anyone? Megan, Nicole, Levon?
I think that's probably your safest bet. You know, like Carrie and Nicole have always said, you never want to post anything where it talks about where the kid and where they're from, because that gets in trouble with OPS and their with their photo releases. You know, the biggest challenge is just going to be getting the word out, I think. And I don't know how successful any of our sites have been yet with connecting.
I don't know either, but
connecting with kids, because, you know, it's just, I think last week was a lot of what are the organizations doing? What are their expectations of their people? And maybe they've moved into connecting this week.
Well, I won't take any more of your time. So we will be in touch on this because we have a Zoom meeting tomorrow on it. So
I think you need to really just try to get a better understanding. You need to connect with your site directors where your program's at.
Right.
And see how they're connecting with the students and families now that they're out of school, and kind of, you could follow their lead a little bit in regards to sharing your information.
Okay.
Sometimes they have their own Facebook pages, sometimes. So there might be some avenues that way.
Okay. Well, thank you guys for your time.
Thanks,
I
Mary Beth.
appreciate your creativity.
See you later. Stay safe.
Yeah, you too. Bye.
All right, all. I think we're good. We're going to talk at 1 o'clock.
Yep. Sounds good.
Okay.
Hey, LaRon, I had a question.
Where you at?
I'm on my phone right now, actually.
Okay. 402-813.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. What's going on?
My question was, after the schools open up, whatever date they decide, is there any particular protocol you want us to follow post COVID-19?
Yeah, we will. We're in the process of putting that all together. And so once we get word from the school and we sit down, then we will get word out to all of the providers, because we don't know what's going to happen. Like on the call, the governor has said everything is closed down until the 30th of April, but it may be extended. So we don't know. So I'm sure we're going to do our best to follow the guidelines that the state and that the Department of Health and Human Services have put out. And then we will put something out that's applicable to us as well.
Right. And there may be other requirements from OPS.
Yeah. And there may be other requirements from OPS that we have to follow as well.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't know.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Yeah. Cool.
Tyrone, we're trying to communicate when we hear things, but unfortunately, it's not always as quick as what we would hope. So
That's fine. I appreciate it.
Cool. Thank you. All right, I'm going to end the call. I'm going to pause the recording right now.